G7 foreign ministers are gathering for a three-day meeting on the Italian island of Capri off the coast of Naples. The meeting will focus on the situation in the Middle East, including the Red Sea, as well as the war in Ukraine. Talks are expected to explore a path towards a political solution to guarantee peace and security in the region. G7 leaders will meet in June. Well, for more on this, let's bring in Jonah Hull. He's at the Italian island of Capri for us. So, Jonah, what's expected out of these G7 foreign ministers? Are they going to follow the line of what we've heard already out of the UK and Germany?
I expect very much so, Sammy. I think what we're seeing is a consensus emerging at some speed now among Israel's closest allies, the United States, of course, the UK, countries in the European Union, and those countries that make up the rest of the G7. Its foreign ministers, as you said, on their way here. They'll be meeting here over the next 48 hours on the island of Capri. It is a consensus that involves first urging with one voice maximum caution and restraint upon Israel as it deliberates its response to those attacks by Iran over the weekend. And, you know, the fear being that a wrong step, or indeed even a further step by Israel, may result in a dangerous tit-for-tat that ends up in a wider war. And as a means of supporting that effort, again, speaking with one voice, a consensus to apply further sanctions to Iran, to Iranian entities and proxies, as a way of trying to encourage Israel that it doesn't need to go any further, that it can, as President Biden suggested it should take the win being its demonstration in the early hours of Sunday morning, along with the help of a coalition of allies, to be able to stand up to Iranian aggression. So that's the hope, that is perhaps the faint hope behind international diplomacy at the moment, behind high-level meetings, EU leaders due to meet in the coming hours in Brussels at an extraordinary council summit there. G7 ministers, as I said, coming here. Two of those G7 ministers, David Cameron of the UK and Annalisa Baerbock of Germany, coming fresh from meetings with Israeli leadership in Tel Aviv during the morning. David Cameron emerging from that saying it's clear the Israelis are making a decision to act. We hope they do so in a way that does as little as possible to escalate things. That perhaps the clearest sign yet that Israel is preparing some kind of response. Antony Blinken, the US Secretary of State, will be here. He will likely reiterate the US position that it will not be coming to Israel's side in any military retaliation. And I think beyond that, there will also be a move towards trying to re-emphasize or refocus attention that has slipped in the recent days on the war on Gaza, Hamas, the Israeli captives still being held, on the need for an immediate ceasefire and for unfettered access to in Gaza for humanitarian aid to those who desperately need it.
Jonah, how much unanimity is there within the G7 towards the Middle East and Gaza?
Well, all the indications at this moment are that that is the purpose of this meeting now. All else that went before has been overshadowed by the weekend's attack by Iran. The effort will be now to come up with a set of new sanctions and for this G7 to be seen to speak with one voice, to be seen to be sending a singular message to Iran. So, on paper, there doesn't seem to be any pushback there. We've heard from the likes of Annalisa Baerbock in Germany. We've heard from David Cameron, the Italian Foreign Minister Antonio Tajani going further, spelling out that those sanctions will not necessarily target the country as a whole, as we were hearing from that expert just before the break. Trade sanctions, of course, on large scale already in place. They will focus on individuals who've been involved in actions against Israel. They will focus on specific entities. Jake Sullivan, the US National Security Advisor, adding further weight to that, saying the US will be looking to target Iran's missile and drone manufacturing facilities and program, as well as the entities supporting the Revolutionary Guards Corps and Iran's defense ministry.
All right. Thanks so much, Jonah Hull.
Make sure to subscribe to our channel to get the latest news from Al Jazeera.